Thank you all. It's a great opportunity to be here today with you and to speak about the challenges that Israel is facing from legal aspects, but not only. And I would like to congratulate Shurat HaDin for standing against terror all over the world, for standing with the victims of terror, and standing for the right of Israel to defend itself against terror, and thank you for this. Now, it looks that the world is being divided now between the good guys and the bad guys. When we are talking about the bad guys, it is clear that all these Islamist terrorist organizations, and I believe that we should call them by their name, these represent a conflict which is not only against the state of Israel, but this is a conflict between them and us because of our values, because what we believe in. And we are talking about the values of the free world, and therefore they would never accept our existence. And as I said before, not only the existence of the state of Israel, but they would never accept the right of others to believe in other values, which are our values. And therefore we need to fight them. And we need to use all the tools to do so. And talking about this, Israel is part of the good guys. Not only because we are the victims of these terrorists, but because these are our values. So by definition, Israel sharing its values with the free world. Basically, I believe that this is also our Jewish values. And having these Jewish values with the democratic values, part of our not constitution, but stroll of independence, this means that we need to fight in order not only for the existence of the state of Israel, but also for the nature of, of Israel as a Jewish democratic state. Now, we all face abuse of the legal system in different parts of the world. Part of the universal jurisdiction, there are those that are abusing the system in order to put charges against decision makers like me. They succeeded in putting an arrest warrant in Britain against me, but also against other Israeli soldiers, Israeli commanders, and also for those who make decisions in Israel. This is one part of the problem that we all face. Another problem was created, and this is just in the midst of creating this problem, and this is the fact that the ICC opened its door to the Palestinians, and now we can face not only indictment against decision makers in Israel, but also a completely different story about Israel facing not only condemnations, but also charges against its settlements activities, and this is part of what the Palestinians want to do to us in the ICC. Now, we need to act together against these threats, against these challenges, but there is something that I would like to put in the most sincere, maybe even blunt manner on this table. Because I know that some of my friends are saying that, well, there is nothing to do since the world is anti-Semitic and the BDS movement is now changing the world, so we need to stick together to be united against those that are against us, and the world is anti-Semitic anyway, and they are acting against us not because what we do, but because who we are. Well, it is true because there is anti-Semitism in the world, but not the entire world, but the entire world is not anti-Semitic. And instead of giving BDS the possibility to put a wall between Israel and the international community, between giving them the possibility to isolate Israel and to turn Israel into a kind of a ghetto, Jewish ghetto in the Middle East, we need to act in order to put this wall between the BDS movement and the international community, and we can succeed in doing so as long as we understand what are the problems and how we should connect with the entire international community. Because I know that for the average Israeli, the feeling is that we are the Davids of the region. We are looking at the region from a satellite point of view. And yes, Israel is a very small state. We are surrounded by all these enemies, by different states and terrorist organizations and Hezbollah and Hamas. And therefore, we feel that we are the Davids. But when the world is looking at us, it doesn't look at us from the satellite point of view, but oops, from a Google Earth point of view. And what they see is the Israeli soldier and the Palestinian child. And therefore, when they judge what we do is in accordance to this narrow point of view, looking at Israel not from the victim point of view, but from the aggressor point of view. Now, I said that we are the good guys not only because they are against us, but because of who we are. And I'm talking about values. These are the same values that are part of the story of independence of the State of Israel. These are the same values that we say every time that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. And these are the same values that are the basis of the relations between Israel and the United States. And we need to understand that when every Israeli decision maker, when every Israeli leader is coming to the US saying that the relations between Israel and the US are unbreakable, unshakable because they are based on values, we need also to keep these values as part of the nature of the State of Israel, firstly because of us, because this is what we need to continue in enriching and educating next generation in Israel, but also we need to understand that these values also affect the relations between Israel and the US. But you can ask me, why do we speak now about values? I mean, I was asked to speak about universal jurisdiction, about legal aspects of how to defend Israeli soldiers, because there is one thing that we need to emphasize and to understand. The values of the State of Israel are the best way to defend the Israeli soldiers. When Israel makes the investigation itself, when IDF is investigating, when the legal system in Israel is strong, when the Supreme Court in Israel is being perceived, and rightly so, as a very strong Supreme Court in Israel, knowing that law enforcement is not just, two words in our legal system. Knowing that Bagatz, yes, Bagatz, is basically the one who defends Israeli soldiers outside of the State of Israel. And therefore, when it comes to the Israeli leaders, those who attack Bagatz, those who attack the Supreme Court, those who are speaking in favor of the Israeli soldiers, Elior Azaya, who shoot the terrorists, those that would not condemn those that are attacking now, his commander who came to the court in order to tell the truth. They don't support the Israeli soldiers. They are talking politics. But we need to know that those leaders that are talking and acting in accordance to their political interest, they are not acting in favor, or they don't enhance and support not only Israel's values, but also they are not defending the Israeli soldiers. It's a legal concept. It's not only a matter of values. And unfortunately, we are facing these days now in Israel when an Israeli commander who needs to go to give to tell the truth is being attacked. And my expectations from Israeli leaders is to stand with him, not because we know what's happened there, but because this is the right thing to do. These are our expectations from our soldiers. When I'm going abroad and I give these speeches about Israel, about our values, I'm speaking about my two sons. Both of them were combat fighters in Israel. And when I'm speaking about them, I say, listen, I know what are the values that I gave them. And they are not taking off these values when they are putting on their uniforms. They are the same human beings. And therefore, this would not change. And these are the days in which, unfortunately, it's a kind of a crossroad to Israel. and we need to keep the values. And we need to put aside all the political aspects. And we need to demand also our politicians stand with Israel values, stand with IDF, act against those that are trying to have these values being eroded because of your political interest. By saying so, it's not, it's not a matter of left and right. It's not a matter of who is with IDF and those, left-wing guys that are speaking about human rights and values. Not anymore. We are on the same side, and we should act accordingly. So I do believe, that this is what Israel is. And there is a huge gap between what Israel is, our values, and the way Israel is being perceived. But I cannot just blame the world in, looking at Israel in a distorted lens, in distorted lenses. We need also inside to keep these values for the sake of our children. Secondly, another aspect that I would like to share with you is also a kind of a distorted way to look at democracy, not here in Israel, but outside of Israel. Because you are acting against terror, and against terrorists, and against those that are trying, in a way, to change their identity as terrorists into something else. And this is something that we face. I mentioned before, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas on the Palestinian Authority. What's happening now is that we have terrorist organization, designated terrorist organization, in the European list, in the US, but what they do is that they are turning themselves also to political parties. I mean, Hezbollah in Lebanon is also a political party. Hamas is a political party. Now, in 2005, when Hamas wanted to participate in the elections on the Palestinian Authority, I went to the US. I had a meeting with Condi Rice then, and I said, come on. It's impossible. I mean, you're talking about democracy. Democracy is more than just a system of election. Democracy is also about values. You cannot give this terrorist organization the possibility to participate in election when they are acting on a daily basis against the system. They are abusing the system. Well, I got two different answers that day. Well, it's not funny because it's sad, but the answer was one, they would never win the election. Yeah. I never trust polls since that day. And the other one, which is also a sad answer, was look at Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now, when this is also a political party, they are becoming more moderate. And I'm talking about the end of 2005, just few months before the abduction and the kidnap of Gilad Shalit, and later on the second war in Lebanon when they entered our soil and kidnapped our soldiers. So what is needed now, and I'm preaching for that, and I remember also my conversation since that day with Mubarak, those days in Egypt, with other Arab leaders and the leaders of the international community, saying to them, listen, what we need is to have a universal code for elections. When we say democracy, we mean one thing. When they say democracy, they mean something else. Here in Israel, our Supreme Court denied the right of a racist party to participate in election. Kach. Israel is really a democracy. But you cannot speak about democratization, you cannot force others to be more democratic, but simultaneously to give all these terrorist organizations the possibility to abuse the system in order to get more and more support, more and more political power, and simultaneously also to get more weapons in order to execute their horrific agenda. So I'm preaching for a universal code for election, trying to do so. Maybe we can cooperate on this. And in a way, unfortunately, the answer that I usually get is, yes, of course, it's a great idea, but nobody really is taking the lead on this. And frankly, I don't want Israel to be in the front line of this, because when Israel is doing something, this would be the day in which they say, okay, it's not for democracy, it's against the Arabs. And therefore, I'm trying to convince others to do so. And last thing, which is also important, it's a political issue in Israel, but I would put it on the table as well. When it comes to Israel's legitimacy, it's also about Israel's policy. And when we have, well, I believe that the way to keep Israel's values as a Jewish democratic state, the only way to do so is by separating ourselves from the Palestinians. You can use separation, you can use two states for two peoples, but anyway, otherwise we will face a moment in which the values of Israel as a Jewish state and democratic state would be in a contradiction, even though I believe that our Jewish values are not less open, accepting than the democratic values. But I would like also to say something from the legal point of view. Our possibility to defend Israel is becoming easier when we have peace process with the Palestinians. In the end of the last operation in Gaza, there was another possibility. And I was talking about Hamas as a terrorist organization. I believe that we shouldn't legitimize Hamas, and therefore I'm completely against any talks with Hamas during military operation in Gaza. The whole idea of the military operation is to regain deterrence and not to give the legitimacy to these terrorist organizations. And therefore, what we need to do is to have the world with us against Hamas instead of negotiating with Hamas the terms of the cessation of violence. And the possibility was on the table in the last operation in Gaza. But the only way to do so was to delegitimize Hamas while acting or negotiating with the other side of the Palestinian Authority. I mean, they are weak. I'm not sure that that peace is just around the corner. But it is also clear that when Israel is speaking and acting in accordance to our values, when Israel is not just speaking about aspiration for peace, but also acting in a manner that shows that this is what we really believe in. So while doing so, and by doing so, we can gain also the support of the world, not the entire world. We will always have BDS. We will always have all these anti-Semitic movements, but as I said before, let's be united, not only against those that are against us, let's be united for our values, and let's create this wall between BDS, between the anti-Semitic movement, between those that are putting charges against Israeli soldiers, while they know that they are acting in order to defend Israeli citizens and not because there is any comparison to terrorist organization. And last thing that I would like to share with you, and this is what I do also when I'm coming when I have meetings with international leaders and also other meetings. I am speaking about democracy. And I'm not asking the world to turn a blind eye toward Israel or the conflict. I'm not asking them not to judge us. I'm asking them to judge us in accordance to their own values. And there is no legal system in the world in which there is a comparison between a murderer and between somebody who killed by mistake in a car accident. We are not talking about the grief of the families. We are talking about the moral standards in which they will be judged. And therefore, I would never accept, and we should never accept any comparison between terrorists and between Israeli soldiers. While these terrorists are looking for children to kill, the Israeli soldiers are trying to avoid civil casualties. And this is not just a small difference. This is the entire difference between us and them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, former Minister Livni. We are going to take a 10-minute break.